Today on the Canon Journal podcast, I'm joined by Lyubim Kogan. He is the founder of Wings for Heroes. He has a very interesting life with this one. So he survived 9/11 just in time to be a victim of the great financial crisis, and has written a book with Steve Forbes, and then now has started a new, I guess, charity sort of thing, national infrastructure company, called wingsforheroes.org, which helps wounded veterans. And so it's been a crazy journey, and the details seem a little bit sketchy. He's also an Olympian as well. So we're going to find out all the details about this person. I do enjoy this, where we find some random person who's been doing a lot of random things that make no sense whatsoever and find out why they've been doing those random things that make no sense whatsoever. So I'm excited to find out about the whole story. So welcome to the Cameron Journal podcast.
Thank you so much, Cameron. That was an amazing introduction, and I'm wondering where should we start?
Well, that fortunately for you, that is my problem. So I would like to begin. Why don't we begin from the beginning with why don't we start with the Olympics and then NYU and getting to the financial crisis. Let's start with that because that's kind of the lead up into why you did Wings for Heroes. So let's start with your origin story.
Okay, so I was born in the former Soviet Union in the mid 70s, and I grew up. I'm a child of Cold War. The picture that I had of the United States growing up was President Reagan sitting in front of a red button, and that he could push that red button at any time, and we all die. Then the Soviet Union broke up in 91, and in 92, I immigrated to the United States. I consider myself very fortunate because, I was a skier and I found a place that believed in me. It was the National Sports Academy in Lake Placid. I think it doesn't exist anymore, but they gave me a scholarship that I can go, I can live there. I had a home, I had a place to live. I had 3 meals a day. I had places to go where I could learn English and, all the other subject I needed to finish high school. Plus, they let me ski as much as I wanted to. And, that was my first experience with the United States. It was really generous, very open. And that's what helped me assimilate with the American culture and just cut the past off completely. I didn't keep any friends, or I didn't try to migrate to areas that had immigrants of my origin. I actually was fortunate enough to spend my first year living with Americans. And then from, upstate New York, I moved downstate. I got accepted to NYU Stern School of Business. And I went to NYU, and actually I was still skiing. And in order for me to do so, I pick up the 600-mile commute every week. I would go from New York City to Albany by bus, and then I would get my car and I would drive to Lake Placid. And then at the end of the weekend, I would come back down to New York City, and I'll leave my car in Albany, jump on the bus, and then go to Manhattan. I qualified for the Olympics while I was still a full-time student at NYU. So actually, I had to take only one semester to go ski in Europe. It was winter of 97, 98. And, after doing that commute of 600 miles every weekend, I finally came to a place, and it was our qualifiers were in Europe, but the weather was so bad that all we did, we were on the team bus going from place A to place B. But because I got 2 years of practice of traveling on the bus, for me, it was a normal thing. When for the rest of the team, it was really grueling. And that was my competitive advantage. It was not on the hill, it was off the hill. And I qualified for the Nagano Olympics. It was a really exciting, thing to make it to the Olympics. It was super stressful, man. It was one of the most stressful times in my life. And the month flew by like, we came before and left a few days after the closing ceremony, but it was probably one of the fastest months in my entire life. After that, I stopped skiing right after the Olympics because, my goal was to make it to the team. I was never good enough to become one of those great people who were competing for, a podium. I was competing for an opportunity to, wear the uniform and walk the parade, if you say so. But after college, I got hired by a trading firm, and my long life dream at that time was to work in the World Trade Center, because to me it represented the combined and collective success of all the generations who came before me in the financial world. And I was really fortunate to work in those buildings. And now, talking to you almost 25 years, I know I am one of the fortunate ones to walk away on 9/11. And, that experience was so traumatic. I left New York a few days after 9/11. And this winter was the first time that I had the strength to go back and really see what is there after the attacks. I saw how the buildings came down on that day, and I saw them burning for a few days. But this was almost 25 years for me to go back to New York. And what was the next thing you asked me? You said Olympics, then New York, and why you?
Yes, yes. Well, then I think we should briefly stop at the financial crisis then. So you seem to navigate that for your clients with a great deal of
Okay.
aplomb.
Yes, and I have to give credit to the Stern School of Business and the professors that are teaching at that school. One of my accounting professors, he was the partner at Ernst& Young, and he showed us the first time we saw the financial annual reports. He brought in this, it was General Mills. It was this pretty fat book with really nice cover. And he said, okay, guys, look at the front. Look, the front looks really nice. Now, I hope this is the last time you see the financial statements or annual report from the front, because everything that we need to find is in the back. And he flipped all the way back to that fancy report, and he went to footnotes. And footnotes is basically where the companies say that something may happen, some things that do not need to be on the statements, on the financial statements, but they're big enough to be disclosed. And I was reading footnotes for Citigroup, for Citibank, and I found out that they had $50 billion loss because of the subprime. And it was like, oh, wow moment, because big financial institutions, they're always pile into the same thing.
So what you're saying is
So
you're Ryan Reynolds in The Big Short. Like you are kind of like, oh, or my boy, like, oh, I found the critical error. This this will not
exactly,
bad.
but
Yes.
but you see, that's so interesting because for Ryan Reynolds, those characters, they went in and they capitalized on that, and they took the opportunity for themselves.
Mm.
I went and I told all my clients, I said, look, this problem is coming and we have to move now, because when it gets here, it will be too late. And they all agreed. And then I say, well, after all my clients agreed and we moved all the money out of the market and it was time to wait, I kind of had nothing to do. So I thought, what would be a way to tell people about the problem that I found? And I started a radio show. It was a KHOW in Denver, Colorado. And at first it wasn't working really well, but then I hired a person who just edited, just made sure that the sound sounds better, and
Mm.
it took off. And then in less than a year, I was in 7 different states on 11 different stations telling people, look, it's coming. It's coming. We just don't know when, but when it comes, it will be fast and it will be too late. And actually, I was fortunate to save financial futures of a lot of families, because a lot of people did call and a lot of people did listen. They believe that it will be major. I didn't really capitalize on it like the movie characters did, but I think that, I really made a big difference in many people's lives. They didn't have to sit through those years and really worry what is going to happen to them when they're retiring so soon. And it was real, it's really scary.
No, certainly. And now that brings us up to the present. So you've got your Wings for Heroes t-shirt on. Why don't you tell us about this organization and what you're doing there?
So basically, after 2008, 2009 financial crisis, I actually was fed up with the industry, and I thought of not renewing my licenses and actually going doing something else. And then I got an invitation to go to New York City and present at Steve Forbes at the symposium. It was called Success in the New Economy. And meaning like we just saw the foundation of our financial system like practically melted down. So now we have to rebuild. And I was one of these people who was invited to talk about what I did and how I see the future. And out of that came out an invitation to contribute to, the book that he was putting together. And the book came out. It became a bestseller in 2014. And it so happened that's the same year when Russia annexed Crimea, and the Ukrainian war began the same year that our book became bestseller. So, yeah, next year I was in Ukraine visiting family, and I got an offer to do an audit. It was a nationwide infrastructure company. I did an audit and I presented what I found out, and they saw it and they said, okay, great. Now can you fix it? And I looked around and there were a lot of people in the room who really didn't know what to do. But I knew because we went through a crisis just a few years before in the States. So I knew maybe I didn't know exactly what things I needed to do, but I knew how to lead a company. And I agreed before I really realized what I was getting myself into. And when I moved there, I found out that actually the war is going on, and now I'm living in total chaos. And it was one day when I was at one of our gas stations, and I saw a guy on a wheelchair without two legs rolling out and going towards the highway. But on the highway, there is no pedestrian walkway, and you can forget about trying to, roll there with a wheelchair. And 15, 20 minutes, like a huge summer thunderstorm rolled in. It was like dark, black clouds, wind, it's like just Armageddon coming. And I'm thinking about this guy that I saw rolling down towards the highway. So one of the good things about, running an infrastructure company is you have vehicles of any kind. And I called the garage and I said, look, I need a pickup truck here and I need it right now. So a driver came with the pickup truck and we got in the car and we followed the direction where that guy rolled on his wheelchair. And we found him on the side of the road, all covered in mud because, he was getting splashed by the trucks and he was in really bad shape. We put his wheelchair in the car and we put him inside. And then they saw that, even if you clean him up, he's in really, really bad shape. Like he's barely alive. And then at that time, I knew that he cannot go anywhere. He cannot do anything. He cannot say anything for himself. But like deep down inside, I felt like I have to do something. And then you fast forward another 6 years when the full invasion started. I saw a young girl, a teenager, walk out in front of a full stadium. She was missing a leg. And she said, they can take a part of our country. They can take a part of my body. They can even kill me, but they're not going to break me. And that was the reaction of that stadium was so amazing. Like that moment, I knew I am doing something right now. I am just not watching. If a young girl who lost her beautiful leg, it's to teenage girls, it's everything. And she's missing that part forever. And her life is never going to be the same. And here I am sitting, at home on the beach, whatever, enjoying this life that because of her, I can enjoy my freedom and we all can enjoy our freedom. I got this idea that, I knew that I had to do something. Now, the next question, what would you do? And I am a paragliding pilot. I fly paragliders. It's that thing with the plastic bag over your head. You don't have a fuselage. You're hanging in the air way, way, thousands of feet above the ground. And I remember my first flight. I got so scared that I forgot about everything. I sure didn't remember about any of my issues that I had in my life. And I thought, okay, what if we take an amputee veteran and we fly them with a paraglider? I know that for one moment they will forget about the fact that they're missing a leg or two, or they cannot hear or whatever. And, it took a little bit more than a year to fly a first one. But last summer we flew our first veteran. And the way I structured the program is that they come here for 1 week and they enjoy the sea, the mountains. They meet people and they go flying. It's like the highlight of the whole thing. And the feedback that I got last year, they said everything is great, but 7 days is not enough because we just want like a 2 or 3 days to sleep and rest. And can you make it a little bit longer? So this April, we had last session, April 9 to 19. We had one NPT who came out, and they all come with families, because it's really easy for me when there is a caregiver, either a spouse, or a girlfriend or a family member, because hiring somebody would be really expensive, and for a short period of time, it's not effective. So I bring 1+1. So one was an NPT and one was a deaf. On one side, he had a hand grenade explosion that left him deaf.
Hmm.
And they spent 10 days and they said, you know what, actually, can you make it like 9 days? Because the 10th day, it's just too much. But anyway, so they come, they rest, they feel loved, they feel cared. I have wonderful volunteers. Cameron, I knew that if I build it, people will come. And before t-shirts were there and before we were flying and having them, it was like a concept and it was in my head. But now that it's visible, like everybody wants to help. So for me to find 20 volunteers, it's not an issue. People are helping now. So then,
And that's quite
just real quick,
impressive.
we realized that they need physical therapy. So we added physical therapy. We have a physical therapist. And then we realized that a lot of them have gotten no counseling. And now I have a psychologist. Like I brought her and I said, look what we're doing. Just come and be with us for this few days. And she saw these guys and these girls and she said, like, I'm not only going to help the veterans, I'm going to help their spouses because they are so emotionally exhausted helping men who were discarded. They did their job and now the society just discards them and they don't have a place. They don't know what to do. They're like lost. And now we have a psychologist. So the mission is growing and it's including more and more and it's based on their needs. I didn't invent anything. It's like said, hey, can I help you? And they said yes. And I said, what do you need? And we are slowly opening, the things that they need.
Hmm. Well, I mean, that's all quite impressive. And what an odd way to have gotten inspired, that one
Right?
man rolling along a highway. Um, and then you've got this tremendous idea to do this, and it's blossomed into so many other things. That's that's quite a journey. That's quite impressive.
Yeah.
Um, and of course, intensely interesting.
Thank you.
So now let's go back one moment. How did you get into paragliding?
When I was in Ukraine, the situation with the company was so bad that they couldn't pay me a salary. But for Christmas, they got me a gift to go skiing to Austria because my sport was skiing. And I was checking into the hotel and I see this ad for tandem paragliding. And I was like, I never saw it before, never paid attention. So I check in, I turn around and I see the second one. The second ad is looking at me. And when I put the two together, I said, well, I never noticed anything like this, but now I see two. So I want to go try it. And I grabbed the brochure. I went straight up to my room and I called the phone number. A lady answered and she says, okay, come to this location at this time and you're going to go flying. So I get to this location. The pilot was an older guy. He was like in his 60s. He made some jokes, told me what to do. And then we ran off the hill and we got away from the ground. And I'm seeing like everything is getting smaller and smaller. The chairlift looked like tiny. And I'm thinking, man, I'm going to die. I don't even know this guy. He's going to kill me. So after we landed, I had this, like I had this shaking. I'm looking at my hands and I always thought of myself as a brave guy, come on, I ski jump, I can go 60 miles an hour head forward and I can split my skis and I can fly. And here I'm sitting, I'm like, what is going on? So when that stopped, I knew that not only I have to learn how to fly by myself, I have to get good enough to fly passengers. And it took me 6 years, and then I got my tandem paragliding license, and now I can fly passengers. like that.
That no, but
I
I mean
got really scared,
no, I
man.
mean that's a very compelling. No, that's a very compelling story. It's very interesting. Yeah, it's kind of random by random happenstance, but that seems to be your thing, random happenstance. That's kind of
Exactly. I
that
just follow
that
that.
works for you. That works for you. Yes. So
Can I share this part with you? Because I think it's really important. Because I think once I started being guest and people really want to do it, like want to know what, how, and why. And I have this analogy, I say like we have two compasses. One compass is in our head, and another compass is in our heart. So the head compass is always talking. You should do this. You should go there. You should make this. Should. Just it tells you a lot of things. But then this heart compass, it kicks in very rarely. And it's that feeling, like when you feel from the inside, like you have an idea, and it's not just an idea, it connects to something inside. It's like, oh, I want to do this. So for me, I started long time ago, I started paying attention to those little feelings. And I found out that if I follow that, like what really comes from my heart compass, it can go on for 5, 10 years. And then when I get there, the satisfaction of getting to something that came from the inside, it cannot compare with anything that my head compass was telling me to do, like finish business school, go get a great job, start accumulating, comma, zero, 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 just keep adding on zeros. And that's one thing that worked for me, just following what, if I have the feeling from the inside that something inside me wants to do it, then the outside starts doing it. And I'm going to keep doing it until I get there. And that's the only way that Wings for Heroes flew. Nobody cares about an idea that you have in your head, really. And there is a period of time between the idea in your head becomes the reality. And now once it became a reality, like it's really amazing. And I think if you save somebody's life one time, you know what I'm talking about. If you are the person that changes life for somebody else, you will remember that forever. And there's nothing else I want to do. And there's no money in the world that can, or offer or some promise of something wonderful can make me stop doing this thing. The only thing that can make me stop doing this thing is if I die.
no, I mean I mean no, I mean I've had plenty of people doing inspirational things on this show as the
Mhm.
years have gone by. Um, and they all say the same thing. So it appears it must work as you all seem to share it in common. So
Okay, thank you for sharing. I don't feel like that black sheep as much as I felt a few minutes ago.
no. I mean no. I mean there's been several people who have come through and they yeah, everyone has this a similar story to them like that. And for some people it's, well, I think for all of them, it's the finding the purpose greater than themselves. Um, that is, very, very important. But I think also, just, people they find something, a need or a problem, and they get very passionate about it, and then they find a way to do something about it. And for some people, it's in their community. For some people, it's a whole nationwide thing. Whatever it ends up being, they do it all. And so, I'm always. I'm always perpetually impressed by it because my life could not be more different. So I'm always interested in people who, are doing something different with themselves or having a different experience. So I just always fascinates me.
Thank you. May I share with you an inspiration that I found inspiration for me? A story in a man. It's a historical figure.
Of
Would it be
course.
okay? Um, his name is Henry. No, his name was Henry Dunant. He was a Swiss banker, and in 1859 he was traveling for business to Italy from Switzerland.
Mm.
And he arrived to a place called Solferino on June the 25th of 1859. It's the day when the imperial army of French and Italians, about 140,000 strong, fought the Austro-Hungarian army, which was about 170,000 soldiers. At
Mhm.
the end of that day, there were more than 40,000 dead and wounded left in that battlefield. but there was nobody who was helping. So Henry Dunant organized all the villagers around, and at that time they were mostly women because all the men were fighting wars. And
Right.
him and those women, they were pulling out the injured from the field. It took them more than a week. They said there were some churches were filled. They had between 500 and 1,000 people. And when he finished that work, he went back to Geneva and he wrote a book that is called A Memory of Solferino. It's a little paperback, the just tiny thin paperback, just him telling how he saw what happened. And that book received such wide attention that he was able to start the Red Cross. And then 11 months later, after starting the Red Cross, they signed the first Geneva Convention. And the Geneva Conventions, they're important because they tell us the rules of how we deal with injured soldiers and how we deal with innocent bystanders, because sometimes wars, they touch people who have no business in the conflict. And I was thinking, like today we have more than 11 million volunteers around the world working for the Red Cross. And after the September 11th, I left New York and I went to California and then I went to Texas and I ended up in Colorado. Like I went around the states to find my new place and my new home. And at that time, I was classified as a displaced person and the Red Cross sent me a check for $15,000. They didn't ask for anything. They just said, here, just get back with your life, like rebuild. And all my life, I have this great appreciation to what they've done for me. And now years later, 25 years later, I'm running a mission. And I find that there was one guy who just was in the place and, he saw what was happening and he couldn't look away. And I think that the biggest issue that Western society faces right now is just we're so numb and we can look away so easily. It could be any tragedy going around us. We just look away. And I think that apathy is the biggest threat that's facing the Western civilization right now. And it just so happened that I don't know why, but something inside me, it didn't allow me to look away. And now when I see what I do for these guys and girls, like really their life is different. This is the life-changing event that they've been waiting for. And that's what I decided to dedicate my life to take care of people who protected us and help them rebuild and show them that they're still important, and somebody cares.
Oh no, I'm always perpetually impressed by the people I find who go and do relief work. I've known a few, some who work like with disaster professionally, and others who just volunteer to do relief work because they have skills in medical or whatever have you. And I figured out pretty early on that I was never going to be the sort of person to be able to go and do that sort of work, but I've always been impressed by the people that do. Um, and sometimes from completely random, very normal, very ordinary sort of people you would never kind of suspect would be going and doing that sort of thing or putting themselves in that type of harm's way, and they do. Um, and uh, and that's always kind of been just sort of an interesting thing because there, in all these, these things that happen, we always talk about, oh, relief workers sort of thing, but we very rarely put faces to the names sort of thing, but then you kind of meet these people randomly in the comings and goings of your life. And suddenly you're like, oh, these are the actual people who go and do this sort of thing. And it's always, kind of very interesting that to me, the people that go and choose to do that. And just like this situation, someone that you might not suspect has created this wonderful thing that's helping people and moving the needle in something. So that seems to be how it goes, I think.
Yes, and you know what? I have to tell you that, to every whole, there are little parts and pieces, and they're all extremely important. And one thing that I needed right now is to tell people, look, that this exists, it works. It took 2 years to get it going. And there was just one guy, me, who was doing all the work. But you are the guy who created the space where people like me can come in and share our mission. And the work that you're doing, it's as equally as important, maybe even more important than what we are doing, because you are letting our voice to be heard. I don't know social media. I'm trying to make documentary videos and put them out there. So on our website at the bottom, there are all the videos that I've created and put out to tell about the organization and what we're doing. And again, like the fact that your platform exists, it allows me to share my work. And I want to tell you that's how I see you. And I am grateful for people who are like you, who said, I know I'm not going to do this kind of work, but you did something and you made the space for me to come in and share with your listeners about the work that I do. So I'm really grateful to you for this opportunity and for the fact that you created this safe space where we can have this discussion.
No, no, thank you. You're welcome. I always refer to myself as America's most non-essential employee. Um, because what I do is completely non-essential to the functioning of society. Um, but no, I very much appreciate that. So, well, this is the portion of the show where we do plugs, which not that we really have to, because you've been wearing it the entire time. But why don't you tell us where we can learn more about your organization, where we can find you online?
Okay, so the website is wingsforheroes.org. The way I structured the website, first, it was this is what I'm going to do. And then I did it. And then I just updated the website saying this is what's been done and this is what we're going. Plus, I added all the videos at the bottom of the page. There are different things that I try to share with you, but that's probably my bottleneck. My actions are way ahead of my video editing skills. But in any case, if you go to wingsforheroes.org, and four is the number four, all the information is there. And if somebody at the Red Cross, I've learned that, there are three ways that we can help, that all of us, there are only three ways we can help. Number one is we can donate blood because there's a huge shortage all the time. And number two, we can volunteer and give our time. And, providing service and taking care of other people is the biggest thing that you can do. Just take something that you will never get back, like your time, and give it to somebody who's less fortunate. And the third way, you can write a check, you can donate money. And this is actually our biggest issue right now because I brought, this is our last group. The guy in the red shorts, he's deaf because the hand grenade went next to his head and it took off his right side and, he cannot hear. And obviously the middle guy is the guy who is missing the leg. He came here for 10 days of rest and relaxation, and we found out that his only leg needs urgent care. If we don't attend to his muscles, they're starting to push on his sciatic nerve, which can push into his disc, and he will become paralyzed. And they came in April, and he needed to come back right away. So what I did on this card, I wrote, why we are here, saying this guy must begin a 30-day physical therapy program in May of 2025 to save his only leg. And I had no idea how I'm going to do it in May, because we just finished. We're small, we finished one,
Right, yeah.
and we're looking for the other. And I was fortunate enough to find, sponsor for him to come in. He started on May 29th. He started his first rehab. He has physical therapy. He has Pilates. He has swimming. He has cycling. He has acupuncture. He has everything he needs. But Ukraine has
exhausting is what it sounds like.
Yeah, well, I go to all of those things and I find all those people and I watch the process. I need to know how it works. And so for me to bring next people, I need help. And mostly, we're talking about financial help. But I understand some people are not ready. And on wingsforheroes.org, if you hit the contact button, that information goes to me. And I'm open to having conversations with people who are interested. And if somebody ever wants to come and see what we do, how we do it, it's all open source. There's nothing to hide. In the first 2 years, I raised $36, Cameron. I don't know how to raise money. I have to learn now. I realized because your own and family funds is not the way to run a mission. But I had to do it to get it off the ground. And if somebody's interested, it's really easy to get in touch with me. Wingsforheroes.org. contact button, and I'll be the one who's going to call you. I'm not going to spam you or share your email. I don't have anybody to share it with, but I will call you and I will talk to you.
Yeah, yes, there is a particular art to fundraising for charities that is quite sophisticated but works very well. It's basically corporate marketing on steroids. That's a whole other conversation. But we want to keep the focus on your organization though. So thank you so much for coming on the Cameron Journal podcast and telling your story.
Thank you, Cameron.
That's all for this episode of the Cameron Journal podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Visit us online at CameronJournal.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I love to talk to my followers and listeners, so please feel free to get us on social media at Cameron Cowan on Twitter, and we'll see you next time on the Cameron Journal podcast. Thank you.